So there, I've just, as you just seen, I've just got back from watching Cocaine Bear, and I will tell you now, this film was a breath of fresh air. It was so much fun to be in that cinema tonight and watch that, especially after I've had like a long week at work and I kind of just needed a bit of an unwind. And this was the perfect film for that. It was just ridiculous, hilarious, gory, but in like that sort of way where, but you're laughing at the same time. The entire cinema was laughing through this film. It is definitely, this is going to be one of these like gems where not much of a budget, but it's going to make. I think it's going to make some money because people. This is going to be a word of mouth thing. It's one of those things where it will probably be bigger once it gets to streaming and stuff like that because everyone's going to be talking about it. It's going to be one of those. And I will admit, I thought this film was fantastic. I needed this type of film to sort of perk me up after sort of a long week at work and feeling a bit tired and a bit this was brilliant. And I've been watching quite a lot of more seriously stuff lately, so it's good to watch something like crazy like this. Um, so yeah, I'm not going to spoil too much. Um, so I suppose if you going into this film, if you like films like Tremors, if you like Snakes on a Plane, Lake Placid, see the sort of creature features where they've got a bit of a comedy element where they don't take themselves too seriously, this is a film for you. This will be right up your street. If you're not into those, and I don't know if you're going to enjoy this one as much, if you're into more like your serious horror or your like serious monster movies, this one isn't that. It knows exactly what it is. It's a ridiculous comedy horror about a bear on cocaine. That's all you need to know. Apparently, it was based on a true story that doesn't happen anything like we see in this film. But it's what they do with this film is just brilliant. It's just so much fun. There's a few familiar faces, but no one really major famous actor. You recognise this is one of those films where you recognise people from other things. There's a lot of those sort of faces in it. And I know that the main villain is someone very, very famous in a lot of gangster movie things like that. I cannot for life remember his name. But I said every character you see in this movie, you think, oh, that's the guy from Sif Heinz, that's the guy from someone else. I recognise the guy from Modern Family, the one of the gay dads in from Modern Family. He's in it, the lawyer, the sort of the smaller one. He's in it, and he's hilarious when in this film. So we'll do some spoilers. So if I say there's a spoiler warning starting from 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So the film kind of starts out of a guy on a plane, and he's a drug dealer, and he's throwing these bags of cocaine off the plane. It's like these like small red duffel bags that are packed with like brown packaged cocaine. I don't know much about drugs, but I'm assuming it's like, I think it says 10 American on it, so I don't know if that's 10 key. I don't have a clue. But he chucks these bags of cocaine out of the plane. He's chucking loads of them out, and he sort of he's snorting cocaine as he's doing. So he's off his head. He's like running around like a crazy person. You see the front view of the cockpit. And there's no pilot, so I'm guessing he was the pilot. And he's got his parachute on, and he's got chucking his bags out, and he's definitely high on something because he's like proper crazy. And he goes to jump out of the plane. When he goes to jump out of the plane, he hits his head on the sort of the top of the door and knocks himself clean out and just sort of flops out of the plane. And then later we see that he's dead. He's been found like fallen out of the plane on someone's driveway with this bag of cocaine. So the police are now searching for it. Then what you got in the rest? Then you sort of go to so we see our first couple walking through the woods, and it's this Swedish guy, and he's funny. I don't think he's Swedish reality. I've recognised the actor from somewhere, but I can't place. I think he might have been in Game of Thrones. I think he no, not Game of Thrones. Maybe it was Game of Thrones. It's the same way he plays like a mad warrior. Yeah, he's Game of Thrones. The guy it's that ginger guy from Game of Thrones who's that comical. I think it's him anyway. Who's in love with Brie, the big tall woman who's in Star Wars and stuff, and we're seeing him Wednesday. That guy, it's him, and I think it's him, and he's putting on this Swedish sort of accent, and he's hilarious. And he's with his girlfriend, and they're just hiking through the woods. They see the bear rubbing its back against a tree like bears do. They start taking photos, and the bear looks at them, then just runs at them and just rips the woman apart in front of him. You sort of see it happen behind a tree. It's where this film's gory, but not over the top gory. It's not like Terrifier gore or anything like that, so don't worry about that. But it's got a few quite gruesome parts to it. There's sort of the gruesome that makes you go, ooh, like, ooh, like sort of wincy gruesome. So yeah, he's there. She gets ripped apart, and then he's just screaming as he sees a leg fly out in front of him. It's just a severed leg in front of him. So then we sort of get our character sort of build from there. So we see the drug baron, who's sends he's like one of his henchmen, drug dealers, to go get the stuff, but he wants him to take his son, who has recently been widowed. His wife's recently died and left his son, and like the grandson's there as well, but the son's taking it hard. He's really grieving, so he wants him to take him with him to go get these drugs to try and sort of bring him out a bit more. So those two are sort of off to get the drugs. Then you've got a kid who's skipping school with her friend who goes to the woods, and they're all going to this same point. It's called Blood Mountain. Great name, eh? It's like a national park, and they're all heading to this national park. Like these guys are going to get the drugs. You've got the kids that are there just going there to like draw a waterfall or something, or if she paints a waterfall, she wants to paint a waterfall. You've got the kid's mum who then finds out they're playing like skipping school, so then she goes to the woods to find them. You've got the people that are already at the things. You've got like a park ranger who is played by a woman who is hilarious. I've seen her in a few other things, but in this she's absolutely brilliant as the park ranger. You've got a group of teenagers who are being played by like late 20s, early 30s people. They're supposed to be teenagers that have kind of been terrorizing the national park. And then you've got like a guy who's like a nature guy who's there to help the park ranger look at the wildlife in the area. So there's a good group of people sort of go in there, which is basically cannon fodder, isn't it? You know, these people are all going to be dead at some point. So they sort of get there, and you start off with them like the two kids have found a bag of drugs, and then the bear comes out of nowhere, because basically this whole film the bear is searching for more drugs. It starts like eating the cocaine and sniffing the cocaine. It just wants more drugs. That's all this bear is after. It's on this relentless mission to find drugs. So they're there. So they're there. So the two kids are there. They find these drugs, and the two kids like, we want to try drugs. They have no idea what they're doing, and I mean, I've never done drugs at all. I swear, I've never have. But I know from films what you do with drugs, and what these kids do. They basically scoop out like a teaspoon worth and put it in their mouth and spit it out. It's disgusting. And with that, the bear appears because you can obviously smell the drugs, and goes and you just see them all run off. Then we sort of go to the cabin where the ranger is, and she's like waiting for this guy to turn up, who's like the nature guy. And as we're in the cabin, sort of a little bit of banter going on, then the mum turns up who's looking for her kids. So all three of them decide to go off looking for the kids. So they go off a little march looking for the kids, and they find the one boy who's going up a tree, because the mum's looking for her daughter, but the boy that went with her is up a tree. And he's like, there's a bear. And the nature guy's like, bears, don't have to worry about bears. They're harmless. They're not going to hurt you. And with that, the bear shows up and just like smashes them all about and beats them all up, and like rips the woman's like a chunk out of the woman's ass like with his claws and stuff. And the nature guy legs it up the tree, goes to the kid, oh my god, there's something wrong with that bear, I can't believe it. And the kid's like, I've tried to tell you. The mum's hiding at the bottom by the tree. So then the bear comes out, sees the kid up the tree, and goes after the kid. And the nature guy, who's played by the guy from Modern Family, one of the gay dads, the smaller one, played by him on Modern Family, is up the tree. So the bear scales up the tree, about to get the kid, and then smells the cocaine, because the nature guy, had fallen over into a pile of the cocaine. So he had it on him. The bear smells it, then jumps down the tree, runs up the other tree, and gets him. But he sort of falls backwards, he's sort of hanging off the tree upside down, and the bear's ripping at his leg. And you can hear him screaming, the blood's pouring down him, because you sort of see his face upside down, the blood starts pouring down him. And the kid's like, oh my god, oh my god. So then the mother is going like, you come down and we'll run. So the kid comes down. With that, you see the dead body of this guy fall down. The bear jumps down and keeps on the guy. It is literally this insane. This film just does not stop with like stuff happening. It's a hard film for me to try and remember if it happens, because so much happens. It'll be better once I've got like a DVD or something, and I'll play it again and see a reaction video or something. So it is a high octane movie. It is a full like throttle film where it's stuff happening every 5 seconds in the film. It does not let up, and it's funny. So I'm not going to do many spoilers. I'm going to talk about every kill. Some of the highlight moments for me was when the ambulance crew turn up, because in the cabin, like the ranger woman gets back to the cabin with the teenagers, and the bear attacks that. That whole segment in that cabin is hilarious, with the teenagers being there, and they're thinking they're talking about someone else, and she's like telling them there's a bear coming. They shut the door, they open the door, the bear's there, and it like dives in through the cabin. But when the ambulance crew turn up, it is one of the funniest chase scenes I've ever seen. So the ambulance people turn up, everything's quiet in the cabin. They go open the cabin door, and there's a dead body behind it. When they get into the cabin, they find the ranger woman, who's like been attacked by the bear again, but she's still alive after the second attack by the bear, and she's got a gun in her hand. She's trying to say bear, but she's too like in shock to say anything. So the female paramedic's trying to deal with her. The male paramedic sees blood coming out from underneath the door. He opens the door, sees a dead body with his head ripped off, and then looks into the shadows where he can see the bear. And I think it's in the trailer. And the bear comes bolting out through the door and pins the male paramedic down with the door. So the female paramedic grabs the injured woman, the ranger, puts her in the ambulance, ties her to the stretcher, as you do. And she's like, wait, we're gonna go. She's trying to start the thing as fast as she can as the bear leaves the guy alone from it. So the guy sort of runs, and he runs, the male paramedic runs to the ambulance, jumps in the back, and then suddenly like the ranger woman starts holding the gun to him, and he's like, what are you gonna shoot me for? What are you gonna shoot me for? And she's like, I'm not. The bear, move out the way. And the bear is chasing them at the same speed the ambulance is going at, because his bear's obviously on coke, so he's like extra like zooped up, I suppose. And so it's literally the bear chasing after this ambulance. The ambulance doors are wide open, so the guy's trying to shut the door, and the woman's shooting, and she's like missing the bear every time she shoots. Then suddenly the bear does this giant flying leap, and it's such a distance as well, but the bear clears this jump and lands in the ambulance and like breaks the ambulance guy's arm. You see his arm sort of breaks there and just sort of flopping down with his blood pumping out, and the bear sort of goes for him. The female ambulance driver crashes. No, that's it. First of all, as they're driving along, you suddenly see the stretcher with the woman, the ranger, flies out, and she lands face first on the tarmac and just slides along the tarmac with her face. And it is brutal but hilarious. The whole time you're laughing, and you really shouldn't be at this horrific thing going on. But oh, it's so funny. And I was laughing, like out loud laughing at this part, and everyone in the audience was doing exactly the same as me. We're all out loud laughing. And then the bear attacks the ambulance guy, and then the female driver, the ambulance paramedic that's driving, hits a tree, and she goes smashing through the window, and she dies. And it's just carnage, and the bear just sort of gets out, shrugs itself off, and walks away from the accident completely unscathed. A couple more standout moments is there's actually some quite hearty moments, because obviously the guy that's lost his wife is, it's funny, it's not funny, but it's the way they sort of have him like grieving is quite funny. And then he has this kind of like hate relationship with his father, where he doesn't want to be in the family business of like drug dealing and drug baroning and all that sort of stuff, smuggling, so he kind of doesn't want to be part of that. And there's a couple of emotional moments with him and his dad, and him and the best friend, that are kind of like good. That's a good stand moment, because there's a bit of heart in the middle of this. Not much. It's not much heart. It's not like a Last of Us style sort of like bonding or anything like that. But there is a few heart moments where it's sort of like a friendship thing and a sort of grieving thing. Yeah, it's quite good for that. But it is the comedy that hits this thing and like knocks it out of the park, as the American expression goes. One of the standout moments is when the drug dealer henchman guy, who's like the drug dealer's son's best friend, gets his fingers shot off by one of the coppers, but he manages to shoot off, I think it's that one and that one, and one of the teenage guys is like, how did you manage to shoot two fingers off but not two that next to each other? And he just loses these fingers. He's just walking going, oh my hand, and he's just like, he's kind of walking around like try and do it now, like that. And he's like, oh, like that, and it's just hilarious. And he's like, quick, pick up my fingers, and like the drug dealer's son's got to pick up these fingers, and he puts them in his pocket. It's just proper like, oh my god. All the time there's a copper standing on top of like a gazebo thing, and he's like got the gun. Oh, it's so funny. Then the bear shows up there, and when the bear shows up there, it's walking around, and one of the teenage guys, or the teenagers who look 30, and the drug dealer's son basically have to play dead. So they lay still. The bear walks up and just sits on the drug dealer's son, just squishes him, like sits on him, and just basically passes out and collapses on top of him. And you can hear him still talking, but he can't. He's like underneath his thing, so all his voice is muffled, and everything he comes out of is like the henchman comes and goes, "Are you all right?" He's like, "No, I'm not all right," and he's muffled. It's so good. I could not do this film justice by talking about it. All I will tell you to do is go and watch it. The ending is hilarious as well. It's all the big comeuppance to the bad guy and the bear and stuff, and it is. Go and watch it. That's all I'm going to say. Is go and watch this film. I say I won't drop many spoilers, but it's one of these films. I'm not sure if the first time you watch it, for me, I hope it was for you as well. So the first time I watched it, everything made me laugh. But I think it made me laugh because it come a lot of the shock stuff, like with the woman flying out the back of the ambulance and landing on her face. You don't expect it, and when it happens, it's like, oh my god, and that makes you laugh. A lot of things with the bear attacking people, you're not expecting it to happen the way it does, and it does. It kind of shocks you, and makes you laugh. I said some of the gory stuff when you first see it, the impact of seeing some of it, it makes you giggle, like that nervous giggle. So I'm not sure if second time watching it's going to be as funny as first time watching it. I kind of had this with Idle Hands. Remember that film in the late 90s, early 2000s about the guy's hand that gets possessed and it cuts off and he starts running around killing people. The actual hand's the killer. That film, when I first watched it, I was wetting myself like from start to finish. The second time I watched it, it wasn't as funny because I think that the shock value made it even more funny of some of the things happening. This is what this film, whole funny thing is going to be like that. So the second time I watch it, it's not going to be as impactful as the first time, but I would definitely go and watch this. It's a must watch if you're like a comedy horror fan. It's a must watch if you just want to have a good time and just have something ridiculous on the screen for like an hour and a half. I think it is. It's not a very long film. I'm pretty sure it's set in the 80s as well. That's saying I noticed by the soundtrack of a lot of what's going on, a lot of the music playing, very 80s music, and the fashion. When I first was watching this, I didn't really notice that. It was only about halfway through the film I suddenly realised it was set in the 80s, but I'm not 100% sure when this actually happened in the real story of it, because apparently it's based on a true story, but it's nothing like what you see in the film. Apparently the true story, the bear did have the cocaine and the bear died from the cocaine, but it's nothing like what happened in this film. This film is just taken a tiny bit of a story and just gone with it. Again, it's a lot like Snakes on a Plane. It's a lot like Tremors. It's a lot like Lake Placid. It's those type of, even not Piranha, it's not as sexy as Piranha, but it's that type of film, you know, where it's a creature feature that doesn't want to be a serious horror. It just wants to be a balls to the wall, stupid, outrageous, ridiculous horror. And I would recommend that film to anyone who's feeling a little bit down and wants to be cheered up. Go and watch Cocaine Bear. It's a ridiculous title. It's a ridiculous movie, but it's so good because of those things. It's so good, and it is a breath of fresh air in a load of, because especially because I've been watching a lot of very serious sort of films, a lot of serious horror films, a lot of serious drama films. I'm watching the TV show Black Mirror and The Last of Us. So everything I'm watching is kind of like on a serious tone or down or dark. This is not that. This is very light, very funny, very stupid, fantastic. So yeah, definitely get and watch it. Enjoy yourself like I did, and I'll see you guys soon for another review at some point, maybe. We'll see. All right, have a good night, guys. See you soon. Bye.